Part 46. Being in Konoha, I can upgrade my talent entries. Author, MRMO. Chapter 453. A Hard Night's Work. Of course, it was Luoyi who did the hard work, not Yagami Ryosuke. After all, with Ryosuke Yagami's physique, it would be impossible for him to be even tired even for an eternity, let alone one night. However, after an in-depth communication last night, Yagami Ryosuke also discovered another advantage of Luoyi. That means your body is very flexible. He is worthy of being a horror player who has participated in 2 horror games. Although his strength rating is only E-, Luoyi is obviously following the path of agility. Not the power type of a muscle monster. Therefore, in terms of flexibility, it has abilities comparable to those of the comprehensive horror player E+. Speaking of which, Ryosuke Yagami's own rating in thriller games seems to be a bunch of question marks. Obviously, even in a thriller game, it is impossible to evaluate the specific strength level of Ryosuke Yagami, and can only deal with it with a bunch of question marks. In the next few days, the outside world's search for Ryosuke Yagami continued. But Ryosuke Yagami had already blocked all surveillance equipment in the world on the way to Luoyi's villa. Therefore, no one knew that he was in Luoyi's villa, and naturally no one came to disturb their 2-person world in the past few days. The only problem is probably that Luoyi's recovery ability is a little bit poor. A day of fighting, a day of rest in between. It's basically a day of work and a day of rest. 7 days later. Ryosuke Yagami's second thriller game is about to begin. 097. Coincidentally, Luoyi's last thriller game ended on the same day as Yagami Ryosuke's, but she ended it earlier. After all, Yagami Ryosuke's first thriller game was in survival mode, which was more time-consuming. Luoyi's second thriller game is the ghost-catching mode. As long as you catch the ghost, you can clear the game. So it takes less time. Because of this, today both of them have to play the next thrilling game. It's just that Ryosuke Yagami is in the second game, and Luoyi is in the third game. Just take this and it will keep you safe when the time comes. Before the start of the thriller game, Yagami Ryosuke gave 2 thriller props to Luoyi. One for offense and one for defense, they complement each other perfectly. Brother Yeshen, you are so kind. Luoyi did not refuse and directly accepted the gift from Ryosuke Yagami. After getting along with her for the past few days, she already knew some of Ryosuke Yagami's strengths, so she also knew that these were incomparable in the eyes of other horror players. The precious thriller props can only be regarded as dispensable decorations for Ryosuke Yagami. Take the soul-stealing blade as an example, which Ryosuke Yagami has always used as a petty weapon. Playing with the toys in his hands, he didn't seem to pay any attention at all. Therefore, Luoyi did not refuse Yagami Ryosuke's gift. For Yagami Ryosuke, the 2 A-level horror props were just given away casually. It's just a small gift. Mainly because it's not sure whether the 2 will be assigned together in the next game. After all, the probability is still very low. Although there is only 1 game difference between the 2, they are assigned to the same team. The possibility of a thriller game is not small. But there are so many thriller players around the world, and there are tens of thousands of them playing thriller games on the same day. How can we guarantee that 2 people will get the same thriller game? So, in order to ensure that Luoyi could survive, Yagami Ryosuke would give her these 2 thriller props that were of no use to him to enhance her life-saving ability. However, the horror props would not increase the horror player's own strength rating. Therefore, Luoyi, who is equipped with these 2 A-level horror props, is still only E-level in the horror game rating. But in fact, her strength is comparable to some top B and level thriller players. Second only to those very few A-level horror players. Don't be nervous, you are also an experienced player who has experienced 2 horror games, so relax. In the living room of the villa, Yagami Ryuzyuk glanced at Luoyi who was holding her hand tightly, patted the back of her hand and comforted her. Brother Yeshen, do you think we will be grouped together? Luoyi asked with some expectation. This is unlikely. Ryuzyuk. Yagami said rationally. I think we can definitely be divided into one. Luoyi seems confident, but Yagami Ryuzyuk doesn't know where her confidence lies. Maybe it's the girl's beautiful wish? In any case, even if they are not assigned together, with Yagami Ryuzyuk giving Luoyi the configuration is enough for her to easily get through the third horror game. After all, the first 3 games of the horror game are more suitable for novices. To read Bao's Huang novels, go to Fila Novel Network. Until the 4th the difficulty will only start to increase when the game starts. As for why there are D-class ghosts in Ryuzyuk Yagami's first thriller game, it can only be said that it is a problem with the game mechanics. After all, whether the female ghost in red appears or not is a question. It's a matter of probability. It may not appear, or it may appear. It's just that Yagami Ryuzyuk happened to encounter it that time. But even with this hidden mechanism, it is impossible for a C-level or above scary ghost to appear in the third thriller game. It is the highest, that is, D+. And Luoyi now kills D and ghosts and monsters as easily as killing a chicken. Here we go. Ryuzyuk Yagami felt the coming space force. As this force enveloped the two of them, the next second, 2 figures also disappeared into the villa. On the other side, on the Thriller live broadcast platform, one by one, the live broadcast rooms were also opened, with new pictures. ID 666,666 in the live broadcast room. The hundreds of thousands of viewers who had been waiting here also saw the screen in the live broadcast room light up. As a result, more viewers began to flock to the live broadcast room. They were all people who had heard about Ryuzyuk Yagami's last thriller game, or had watched the live broadcast replay, and they all came here to admire the big man's style. Compared to Ryuzyuk Yagami, dozens or millions of viewers suddenly poured in. On the other side, Luoyi's live broadcast room was much deserted. But there are also thousands of online viewers. This is a very good result in the same period. The main reason is that Luoyi passed the first 2 horror games inexplicably. It aroused the curiosity of some viewers, so they came to watch. Click. Boom. In the sky covered with dark clouds, a bolt of lightning struck fiercely, lighting up the originally dark night sky. This is the only ancient castle deep in the forest. There is a huge yard in front of the castle. At this time, the horror players who entered this horror game were all hit in the yard. 1 2 3 4, 8 people, including me, that's 9. Luoyi first counted the temporary teammates around him, and then suddenly his eyes lit up and he walked quickly to the side. Brother Yeshen, we are really grouped together. Luoyi happily hugged Yagami Ryuzyuk's arm. This made the other 7 people couldn't help but look towards them. Damn it! It's the reincarnation Eye boss. Someone recognized Ryuzyuk Yagami and immediately exclaimed. The boss of the reincarnation Eye? What's the meaning? Someone was obviously not well informed and didn't know anything about Ryuzyuk Yagami. At this time, the person next to him explained it to him. He heard that Ryuzyuk Yagami had the reincarnation Eye and even killed a D-class red-shirt man with one move. The female ghost directly raised the entire horror madhouse scene. The horror player who didn't know Yagami Ryuzyuk also looked at him in shock. Damn it! This is a super giant. They were panicked just now because there were 9 horror players in this game, and they suddenly breathed a sigh of relief. With such a big boss present, they only need to hug the big boss's thigh tightly, and they should be fine, right? Being in Konoha, I can upgrade my talent entries. Author, MRMO. Chapter 454. Current scene, Horror Castle. Goal, spend a night in the castle. Reward, 1000 horror points. A random prop in the current scene. Number of people in the current scene, 9. On the ground, words made of donated blood appeared. Everyone knows the mission of this thrilling game. However, in addition, in this thriller castle game, each of the horror players also has their own identity. And they need to play their own identities well and cannot do anything other than the identity setting. For example, servants and other horror players have to work. But you can't just spend the night eating and drinking in the scary castle like a master. Moreover, there are NPCs in the horror castle. These NPCs will act according to their identity settings. Once a horror player violates his or her identity, these NPCs will find you and kill you. What is your random identity? I'm a chef, but I can't cook. What to do? Am I a gardener? Work duties at pruning flowers or something like that? Don't you have to work anymore tonight? I am a servant, and I should be responsible for serving tea and water. This is relatively easy. I'm miserable, I'm a slave. Will those NPCs do anything perverted to me? Take care of yourself, buddy. Ha 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 ha. I am a guest of the castle, this game should be stable. I'm the driver, so I should have nothing to do tonight. Everyone was exchanging their identities with each other. At this time, Ryosuke Yagamai also looked at Luoyi beside him. Brother Yeshen, I am the maid of the castle. Luo. Yi said with a grimace. The identity of a maid is not very good. It's okay, I randomly arrived as an important guest invited by the owner of the castle, so you can just follow me. Ryosuke Yagamai said. With his luck, in a game of probability like this, the one who randomly gets the best identity will definitely be the one with the best status. Compared with ordinary guests, he, the important guest invited by the owner of the castle, obviously has a more respected status. As for Luoyi, the maid, as long as Yagamai Ryosuke says a word, he can naturally take her with him and let her serve him. In this way, Luoyi will not encounter any unexpected troubles. At this time, Yagamai in Ryosuke's live broadcast room, the audience also started discussing after seeing the identities of the 9 people who arrived randomly. The identity of the guest should be the best in this game. Boss Yagamai arrived randomly as an important guest, with a higher status than the ordinary guests. He was worthy of being a boss. Even if he was strong, he was so lucky. Does anyone know who the woman next to Yagamai is? How annoying. Why can she stay with brother Yagamai? I'm furious. Sisters, don't be angry, maybe this woman will die soon. The sisters upstairs are right. Do you really think you are as strong as brother Yagamai? I heard that the death rate in this scary castle scene is very high. It's more than just high. So far, the horror castle scene has appeared almost 1,000 times, but it seems that there are less than 100 horror players who can pass it alive, right? A 1 in 10 survival rate? Not low. Are you stupid upstairs? Thousands of times, 9 people each time, that's a 1/90th survival rate. Damn it. That's really low. It's okay, the boss's strength exploded, the boss will definitely be fine. It's certain that the boss will be fine. Now I want to know how many of the other 8 people will survive. The beautiful girl next to the boss is called Luoyi, and her live broadcast room ID is 662,100. She is a very lucky horror player. It turns out that this beautiful girl's name is Luoyi. What a good luck, I think she is definitely going to die. The boss seems to be very familiar with this girl. I guess they know each other in real life. With the boss protecting her, this girl won't be able to do anything. The guy upstairs, are you deliberately going against me? The man with a lower head is really a lower head. Hee. As expected, the male and female viewers in Ryosuke Yagamai's live broadcast room started arguing again. But Ryusuke Yagamai himself didn't know all this. At this time, the 9 horror players have entered the horror castle under the prompts of the game. Then the moment they entered the scary castle, their clothes changed. According to their respective status, some people put on gorgeous clothes, while others turned into tattered beggar clothes that could not keep out the cold. Well, that's the unlucky guy who randomly became a slave. Dear guest, this way please. At this time, an NPC dressed as a middle-aged butler with pale skin walked up to Ryusuke Yagamai and made an invitation gesture to him. Ryusuke Yagamai could tell at a glance that this butler was a vampire. This maid will follow me tonight. He pointed to Luoyi, who had changed into a black and white maid outfit, and said to the housekeeper. The middle-aged housekeeper looked at Luoyi with indifferent eyes. You are a distinguished guest and you have the right to do so. To read cool novels, go to Fila Novel Network, he said. So Luoyi followed behind Yagamai Ryusuke and followed the housekeeper to the depths of the first floor of the castle. On the other side a horror player who was also randomly identified as a guest was walking to the other side under the leadership of a middle-aged maid. However, the middle-aged maid didn't seem to be very polite and could only be said to be businesslike. Following the middle-aged maid, the horror player didn't even dare to breathe hard. There is no way, anyone who sees a middle-aged maid who is more than 3 meters tall, weighs at least more than 400 kilograms, and has a face full of flesh, will be frightened into his behavior. He still has the guts to keep up now, his legs are too weak to walk. It's already very good. Damn. Why is it that the boss has a middle-aged housekeeper who looks normal, but I have such a scary-looking maid here? The horror player complained in his heart. But he didn't dare to make a sound. He was afraid that the middle-aged maid leading the way would suddenly turn around and bite his head off. There was no way, the feeling of oppression was too strong. On the other side, the other 6 thriller players also go to the work area according to their own identities. The chef goes to the kitchen. The gardener goes to the backyard. The driver goes to the garage. And the slave. He was immediately put in shackles and chains around his neck, and was led away by a huge fat man carrying a 1-meter-long kitchen knife. The guy was terrified. I thought I was going to be killed and eaten as a midnight snack. Distinguished guest, please wait here for a moment, my master will be here soon. The vampire butler led Ryusuke Yagamai to a restaurant. There was a long European medieval dining table with various decorations and candlesticks placed on it. At this time, there were already many people sitting on both sides of the dining table. At least most of them look quite human. There are only a few of them, and they look a bit abstract and completely irrelevant to people. Ryusuke Yagamai didn't pay much attention, he just glanced at it casually and then sat in his seat. The vampire butler took him to the first seat on the left. Sitting next to him was a beautiful blonde woman. The person has fair skin and attractive eyes. But Ryusuke Yagamai could tell at a glance that she was not human. Hello, handsome boy. The beautiful woman smiled at Ryusuke Yagamai and said hello. She put her slender hands on the table and leaned over a little bit, trying to grab Ryusuke Yagamai's hand. But he dodged it. The handsome boy is still shy. The woman's smile made the granary tremble slightly. At this time, another horror player who was taken to an unknown place also came in. The tall middle-aged maid walked in front, completely blocking the horror player behind her. Wait until the maid turned and left, and Yagamai Ryusuke and Luoyi saw what the guy looked like. There was makeup on his face. It looked like death makeup. It was pale and pale. At this time, he was the last one on the right. Sitting down on the chair, seeing Yagamai Ryusuke and Luoyi, he responded with a smile that was uglier than crying. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Being in Konoha, I can upgrade my talent entries. Author, MRMO. Chapter 455. Jong San felt that he was extremely unlucky. Originally, his life was quite happy. He graduated from a 985 college at the age of 23. Right after graduation, he got a good job that was enviable by outsiders. Not long after he started working, he met and fell in love with his boss's daughter. A year later, he was promoted and married the daughter of his immediate boss. The married life is very happy. The two are very much in love. Everything was fine until the 9th month after the marriage, Jong San's child was born. First of all, let me tell you that they did not get married as a son. And before getting married, Jong San had never had such close contact with his girlfriend. The relationship between them has been limited to hugs, holding hands, and at most a kiss on the cheek, and that's the end of it. Regarding the question of why his wife gave birth after only 9 months of pregnancy, Jong San chose to believe what the doctor said. It was probably a premature birth. After all, even if you are pregnant for 10 months, not all babies will be full term. There are also premature births, right? Although 130 is a month too early, it is a bit too early. But Jong San was still very happy when the child was born. Until he saw his son for the first time. It was a little thin monkey with black skin, wrinkled, swarthy, and ugly. Jong San couldn't stand it when he saw it. He could accept the explanation of premature birth. I can accept that my newborn son is wrinkled and ugly. After all, newborn babies are like this. But what the hell is this black skin? After all, he graduated in 985, he is not a fool. Do you really think he would believe what the doctor said about a congenital skin disease caused by excessive melanin caused by premature birth? That's too ridiculous. But Jong San looked at his wife lying on the hospital bed, and then at his father-in-law and mother-in-law who were smiling behind him. In the end, he tearfully accepted the reason that his son had a congenital skin disease. There was no way, he couldn't bear to part with his beautiful wife. I can't bear to part with my well-paid job. So, skin diseases are skin diseases. What else? Jong San's mentality only lasted until a year and a half later, when his second child was born. This time, it's a daughter. Jong San likes his daughter very much. He felt that he must be a daughter slave in the future. But when he saw that his daughter had golden hair, he couldn't hold back anymore. If your skin is white, then let it be whiter, but what the hell is this golden retriever? He is not a foreigner either. Although the doctor told him that this may be a mutation in genetic memory. He also gave him several examples. But Jong San still couldn't accept it. The second time. For the first time he endured it. For a beautiful wife and a good job. But he really couldn't bear it the second time. However, Jong San finally endured it. Because my father-in-law had a villa in his name. That villa is worth more than 70 million. Even if Jong San worked for 50 years without eating or drinking, he still wouldn't earn more than 70 million. Isn't it because my daughter's hair is golden? The golden one is pretty nice too. Bear it. So Jong San endured it for the second time. He felt that he had the potential to be a teenage mutant ninja turtle. But just last year, their dark-skinned son turned 4. Jong San saw his wife being carried into a hotel by another man who was taller, handsomer, and younger than him. This time, he cried. Jong San cried very sadly that night. He felt that he could no longer love. His wife betrayed him again and again, and he endured it again and again for the sake of reality and this family. But what he got in return was his wife's betrayal. So Jong San filed for divorce from his wife the next day. Unexpectedly, his wife agreed decisively, without even asking Jong San why he wanted to divorce her, as if she had no nostalgia for this marriage at all. Originally, Jong San thought that he would no longer shed tears after crying all night. But seeing his wife like this, he couldn't help crying again. At the age of 28, Zhang San divorced. Also resigned at the same time. What did this marriage bring to Zhang San? If you have to ask, it's probably a deposit of more than 20 million yuan, a car worth more than 3 million yuan, and a villa worth more than 70 million yuan. Certainly. There is also a black-skinned son and a fair-skinned daughter. Yes, the child was sentenced to Zhang San. Because the woman doesn't want it? To read Bao's Huang novels, go to Filu Novel Network. After that, Zhang San lived the life of a single father. Until this year, his 30th birthday. You were selected to join this horror game and became a horror player. Zhang San is different from the lucky Luo Yi. He was really in danger, and he finally survived 2 terrifying games. That's it, he didn't get a good reward. Just the 2 basic scare points were all used to strengthen himself. There are also 2 randomly selected horror props. But it's all garbage. Certainly. No matter how rubbish it is, he will keep it like a treasure. After all, that's all he has. But this time, Zhang San thought he was about to be lucky. First, the super boss Ryuzuk Yagamai was randomly assigned. I thought this thriller game would be a success. But who would have thought that this horror game would be a horror castle? This is a game scene with a notoriously high death rate. Now, it is impossible to win by lying down. You can only rely on yourself. Fortunately, he randomly discovered the identity of a guest of the castle. Zhang San felt that his luck was getting better again. Just happy, as a result, I turned around and couldn't be happy again. At this time, Zhang San, who was sitting at the dining table with a dead makeup forcibly put on his face, was about to cry without tears. Now he can only pray that nothing more will happen next. Let him spend this thrilling game in peace. Pity. Thriller games have never been a great benefactor. Obviously it won't be what he wants. Thank you for your patronage. Dinner will begin soon. The master will be here soon. At this time, the vampire butler tapped a glass with a spoon and said to the many guests present. After saying that, the vampire butler turned and left to check the work in other places. On the other side, in the kitchen, the 2 horror players who randomly went to the chef were looking at the ingredients on the table with pale faces. They said they were ingredients, but they were just cut up corpses. This was not the first time for them. I participated in Thriller 1.4. But I was still so disgusted that I almost threw up. Oh my god. Could it be that the dishes we are going to cook later are these corpses? I can't do it. The 2 stood on the edge, communicating in a low voice. At this time, the vampire butler walked into the kitchen. Rahul, it's time to serve. The vampire butler ordered the fat chef who was carrying a 1-meter-long kitchen knife. The fat chef nodded and looked at the chefs in the kitchen with his green eyes. Little bastards. Why don't you move quickly? His loud voice resounded throughout the kitchen. Even the kitchen knives hanging on the wall trembled. The 2 horror players standing in the corner were so frightened that their faces trembled. It's over. It's really time to cook. The 2 thought to themselves. The key is, they don't know how. Being in Konoha, I can upgrade my talent entries. Author, MRMO. Chapter 456. Number of survivors -1. What? In the horror castle, the other 7 horror players all showed surprised expressions when they received this prompt. Standing behind Yagamai Ryuzuk, Luo Yi, as his full-time personal maid, glanced around, thinking let's see who has been eliminated. But except for the 3 horror players in the restaurant, the others are all NPCs in the castle. There are no other horror players at all. Who was eliminated? How did you get eliminated? Luo Yi was full of questions, but no one gave her the answer. On the other side, in a large iron cage under the castle, the whole body was curled up in a ball, and the trembling horror player was showing a look of astonishment. Someone was eliminated. No. I was randomly assigned to be a slave, and I haven't been eliminated yet, but someone actually got eliminated before me. Obviously he was surprised. He thought that he who was randomly assigned the rubbish status of a slave would be the first to be eliminated, but he didn't expect that someone would be so good. The random status was obviously better than his own, but he was eliminated so quickly. Eliminated? Who is it? What kind of competition? The horror player who was randomly assigned the status of a slave complained in his heart. Although he had been trembling with fear before, he did not dare to leave the corner of this iron cage. But that was because the inside of this iron cage he is not the only slave who is imprisoned. And the other slaves besides him, none of them look like living people, that's why he is so afraid. But being afraid does not mean that he gives up. Facts go up, he still has a trump card. As long as he has this trump card, then he will have another chance. Originally, he thought that he would have to use this trump card soon, especially after seeing someone with the same problem as himself when he was with these slaves in an iron cage. He didn't expect that those slaves who were not like humans seemed to have no intention of harming him. As long as he didn't take the initiative to approach them, it seemed that nothing would happen. Can I survive today as a slave? This person thought, if this is the case, he can save that trump card. In a certain horror live broadcast room. Barrage body protection. Barrage body protection. God's bless you. Invincible to all evil. Damn you, you him. Farkey. I shouldn't have entered this live broadcast room. God bless me. There were only a dozen or so viewers in the live broadcast room where there were 2 or 3 big cats and kittens. They were all posting similar barrages. Just now, they witnessed with their own eyes a scene in which a shocking player in this live broadcast room was eliminated. I have to say, that was so exciting. So this is not the first time they have seen a horror player eliminated in the game. But the picture they saw today still refreshed their understanding of horror games. Can you believe that this horror player was scared to death? And the dozen or so viewers across the screen, although they were not present, witnessed the entire process through the screen. Therefore, they were also shocked by one was so frightened that he went insane. Some people even screamed on the street and threw away their mobile phones, and then curled up in the corner and screamed like crazy. Generally speaking, although the game scenes of thriller games have that kind of mortality rate, extremely high, but the one who really faces the horror is the horror player himself. The audience watching the live broadcast through the screen will not have too deep feelings. At most, they will be slightly frightened, and then they will not dare to leave that night toilet on the road at night or something. But in broad daylight, being scared like this under the bright sun? It is really too rare. No wonder, this horror player will be scared to death. At this time, the other side of the live broadcast number 666,666 room. Many spectators ran out curiously and asked around, finally finding out what happened to the eliminated horror player. I went to that guy's live broadcast room, but the live broadcast room was closed and there was no replay, but I heard that he seemed to be scared to death. After the death of the horror player, the live broadcast room will disappear within 24 hours. Now you can still see the frightened viewers. I asked my friend, and his classmate happened to watch the live broadcast. He was a strong man who was 1.9 meters tall and weighed more than 200 kilograms. He was so scared that he was hiding under the quilt and shivering. Is it so scary? I don't know, I'm quite curious. Are you scared to death? So exaggerated. It feels like this thriller game is not simple anymore. Which of Yagami Boss's thriller games was easy to pass? In the first game, I encountered a D-level female ghost in red. Isn't this the second game to be super doubled? Why do I feel like it's not a good thing to randomly play the same horror game as a boss? Haha. You just discovered it? The boss himself will be fine, but it's hard to say for others. I hope the boss can take us to see what the hell scared that horror player to death later. Don't. I am too timid to look at it. To read exciting novels, go to Feel a Novel Network. Are you too timid to watch a live thriller? You are sick. The more scared I am, the more I want to see it. It's like this. I'm also timid, but if I don't watch the horror live broadcast for a few hours every day, I feel uncomfortable all over. Do you have masochistic tendencies? Ryosuke Yagami couldn't see the barrage in his live broadcast room, so naturally he didn't know what they were discussing. Ryosuke Yagami was the only one among the 8 who was not curious about the shocking player who was suddenly eliminated. Because he saw that guy being scared to death with his own eyes. That's right. Ryosuke Yagami knew it all along. From the moment he entered the thriller castle, his divine thoughts had enveloped every corner of the castle. Therefore, anything that happens in the castle cannot be hidden from his mind. Is it an attack method similar to illusion? The reason why you attack people is because you violate the rules of this game. Ryosuke Yagami thought to himself. The first horror player to be eliminated, he was randomly identified as the driver. After he was taken to the garage, his first task was to clean the vehicle. Besides him, there was no one else in the garage. There were 3 other drivers. This guy was unlucky to be led astray by the other 3 drivers. He accidentally used the wrong tool and scratched the car's paint. As a driver, washing the car scratched the car. This obviously violated the game rules of his status as a driver. In the horror castle scene, every horror player must act strictly according to his own identity, and must never make mistakes. If you make a mistake, you will be punished. Of course. Punishment is not inevitable. If you have the ability to survive, the punishment will not go on endlessly. If you survive, you will be considered great. But if you can't survive, that's it. This scary player who randomly took on the identity of a driver did not survive. So he died and was eliminated. 5 minutes passed quickly. At this time, the vampire butler looked respectful and followed a middle-aged man into the restaurant. This middle-aged man should be the owner of this castle. Surprisingly, he looks very normal. It doesn't look scary at all. Even a little kind. Sorry for keeping everyone waiting. The owner of the castle sat down on the main seat, then glanced at everyone present, paused for a moment on Ryosuke Yagami, smiled at him and nodded. He is so polite. Yagami Ryosuke smiled back. There is something about this castle owner. Yagami Ryosuke will naturally not be confused by the other party's appearance. Although the other party looks polite and not scary at all. But there is something about this guy. The hidden evil thoughts are more than 10 times more than all the NPCs in the entire horror castle combined. This guy. It's definitely a pretty scary ghost. It's just that he hasn't shown his true face yet. If horror players are really deceived by his appearance, it will be really miserable. Huh. The owner of this castle is surprisingly kind. Very good. Jong-san secretly glanced at the owner of the castle in front of him, and couldn't help but feel relieved. Just now, he was afraid that a scary-looking castle owner would appear. Just like the NPC who led him before. It was simply too scary. Fortunately, things didn't go in that bad direction. It's time to eat next, right? Wonder what food will be served to us? Jong-san thought to himself. He was inexplicably looking forward to it. He had heard before that some horror game scenes would come with some benefits. Among them were some foods that seemed disgusting, but in fact, eating them could gain huge benefits. Do you know if you can encounter such a good thing? Being in Konoha, I can upgrade my talent entries. Author, MRMO. Chapter 457. Jong-san thought very well. Even looking forward to it. But by the time the servants brought the dishes, Jong-san couldn't stop laughing. In the restaurant, after a few polite words, the owner of the castle ordered the vampire butler to start serving food. The servants pushed the carts up one after another. On the cart were plates of delicious food covered with lids. Jong-san rubbed his hands. I feel a little excited. Ryosuke Yagami looked at him strangely. He had witnessed the whole process of how these delicious dishes were cooked, and he had no expectations at all. Ryosuke Yagami didn't understand, what on earth was this guy happy about? He wouldn't really be looking forward to the dinner at the thrilling castle, would he? No way. No way. This is the first dish tonight. Please taste it and give us your opinions. The owner of the castle waved. Then the servant standing next to each person carefully picked up the dinner plate, placed it in front of each guest, and then opened the lid on it. The silver lid was lifted, revealing hidden delicious food. Ryosuke Yagami's expression did not change at all. After all, he already knew it. But looking at the pile of round eyeballs on the plate in front of me, with the airflow when the lid was opened, the eyeballs were still rolling in the yellow-brown soup. His stomach couldn't help but feel a little uncomfortable. To be honest, even if this dish wasn't cooked with real eyeballs, he wouldn't be able to eat it. Not to mention, this is made with genuine eyeballs. The only good news is probably that there are not only human eyes, but also the eyes of various monsters. The largest eyeball is as big as an adult's fist. Obviously, it is impossible for human eyes to grow so big. Vomit. While Ryosuke Yagami was still complaining about this dish, there was a sound of vomiting from the other side. He turned around and saw that Jong-san, who had looked expectant before, was already bent over and vomiting. So what was this guy expecting just now? Ryosuke Yagami thought to himself. Luo Yiyi, who was standing behind him, also frowned, with a disgusting expression on her pretty face. Fortunately, she was not the guest who arrived randomly. Luo Yiyi even felt a little lucky at this moment. But after the happiness, there was worry about Ryosuke Yagami. After all, Ryosuke Yagami is a guest, and now he has such a disgusting dish in front of him. Who can say this? Didn't you see that another horror player who was randomly identified as a guest started to vomit even before eating? Brother, you asked for it? Standing behind Jong-san was a horror player who was randomly assigned the identity of a servant. At this moment, looking at Jong-san who was vomiting, he was silently feeling lucky in his heart. Although the identity of a servant requires doing if they don't do their job well, they will be punished. But at least they don't have to eat these disgusting things. To be honest, when he just pushed the cart, he really didn't know what the hell was on the plate. But probably, as you can imagine, it must not be a fun thing. In fact, it is indeed the case. As soon as the lid was opened, he almost vomited. If he really vomited, he would be miserable. Fortunately, he held it back. But Jong-san couldn't. As soon as he smelled the smell, coupled with the visual impact, Jong-san couldn't control himself when he thought about eating this plate of food later. He vomited. He didn't want to vomit. But he couldn't hold it in. Even if he covered it with his hands, it spurted out. He couldn't hold it back at all. Does this guest feel that the food prepared below is not to his liking? The owner of the castle's eyes fell on Jong-san. When Jong-san, who was vomiting, heard this, he felt as if a basin of cold water was poured on his head in the winter, and his whole body was instantly cold. No. Not me, I just feel sick to my stomach. Jong-san explained with a pale face. The owner of the castle looked at him coldly. The expression on his face was no longer the kind one. At the same time, other guests in the restaurant also looked at Jong-san with strange eyes. 1 second. 2 seconds. 3 seconds. Jong-san felt that seconds seemed like years at this moment. Until the owner of the castle looked away from him, the guests looked away as if they had received instructions. Jong-san finally breathed a sigh of relief. Huh. I almost thought I was going to die. Jong-san patted his chest carefully. The horror player who was a servant behind him also looked at this buddy with sympathy. Guest's identity, it's not a good idea, he thought. At this time, the owner of the castle also picked up a spoon and lightly tapped the glass next to him. Everyone, please enjoy your meal, he said. Goodoo. Jong-san swallowed his saliva. He looked at the food in front of him with a troubled face. To read Bao's Huang novels, go to Filu Novel Network. Dinner. Do you really want to eat? Jong-san hesitated. Then he felt that the feeling of being watched before appeared again. Without raising his head, he knew that the owner of the castle was looking at him. So Jong-san could only helplessly pick up the fork on the side, lightly cross an eyeball and pick it up. Phew. When the fork pierced the eyeball, disgusting juice flowed out. Jong-san took the fork and put the eyeball into his mouth with his eyes almost closed. He didn't even dare to chew. He swallowed it in one breath like taking medicine. Even after he swallowed it, the nauseating feeling was still making his stomach churn, and he felt like he instinctively wanted to spit out the eyeballs he had just eaten. Jong-san quickly raised his head and covered his mouth hard. Don't let yourself spit it out again. He was afraid that if he vomited again, the game would really be over. He was more afraid of death than disgusted. So, in order to live, Jong-san could only hold back his nausea, and even hypnotized himself in his heart. Tell yourself that what you are eating is not eyeballs, but 6 meatballs. Thinking about it this way, it doesn't seem so disgusting anymore. What a ghost. There is absolutely no way I can make myself believe it. That is obviously an eyeball. Why will he explode? Blanche. On the table. The guests are having their meal. Ryusuke Yagamai was the only one who didn't move. Eat eyeballs. The dogs won't eat it. He has no control over whether other people eat or not. He definitely wouldn't eat it anyway. As for whether not eating will violate the rules of the game and lead to punishment, Ryusuke Yagamai didn't care at all. And then someone has to find out that he hasn't eaten. At this moment, a strange energy unknowingly invaded the brains of all the people present. Except for Ryusuke Yagamai and Luoyi behind him. No one else, including 2 other thriller players, was spared. So in their eyes, Yagamai Ryusuke was eating the eyeballs on the plate with relish just like the other guests. There was no sign of any reluctance at all, and he even seemed to be enjoying the meal. Vomit. The servant player who looked at him curiously almost vomited. Oh my god. Is this the boss? Eat your eyes without changing your expression? Are you still eating so happily? For the first time, the servant player realized the real gap between himself and the big boss. This is not only reflected in strength. It is also reflected in willpower and mentality. Anyway, no matter how strong he is, he can't be able to eat a plate of such disgusting stuff without changing his expression. This is not a question of whether he is strong or not. At the same time, in the 666,666 live broadcast room. Strange, Boss Yeshen clearly didn't eat. Why didn't these NPCs talk about him? That's outrageous. Is this the welfare of the boss? Stupid or not? This, obviously, is obviously something done by Mr. Yagamai. Illusion. This must be an illusion. Boss Yagamai has the Rinnegan, so he must also have the Sharingan. It makes sense to use the Sharingan to hypnotize these NPCs. Yes. The boss has the eyes of reincarnation. Just illusions, of course, nothing to mention. My little brother is so awesome. Little brother is great. Unlike other people who have to endure nausea and eat their eyeballs. Stop talking, I just came back from the live broadcast room next door, and the audience in that live broadcast room were all vomiting. You can't help but vomit, right? After all, this is a plate of fresh eyeballs. The key is that this thing seems to be alive. I saw an eyeball blinking. Hee hee. Maybe it's alive. Damn it. It's even scarier. Is it really okay to eat this stuff? In the restaurant of the horror castle. Luoyi first looked at the other guests around him curiously, and then at Yagami Ryusuke, who was sitting without moving at all. Strange, why did brother Yagami eat nothing, but these NPCs didn't seem to notice? Luoyi thought in confusion. Of course. This is a good thing. She doesn't want Yagami Ryusuke to eat such disgusting things. But the scene in front of her is a bit weird. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Being in Konoha, I can upgrade my talent entries. Author, MRMO. Chapter 458. What are you looking at? Ryusuke Yagami turned around and said to Luoyi. Luoyi looked around and found that everyone else was eating, and seemed not to notice the two of them. Brother Yeshen, you clearly haven't eaten, but why can't they seem to see it? Luoyi asked curiously. It's nothing, just a trivial little illusion. Ryusuke Yagami said. A trivial little illusion? Luoyi looked at these ghost NPCs in the restaurant and expressed considerable disapproval of the word trivial in Ryusuke Yagami's mouth. In fact, 666,666 live room. The audience here also quite disagreed with this. Oh my god. Is this still insignificant? The boss is indeed a boss, and when he opens his mouth, it means Versailles. Is there a possibility that this is indeed a trivial matter to the big boss? Don't be surprised, everyone, the boss has the Rinnegan, and the illusion is just a trick blessed by the Sharingan. It must be insignificant. If I remember correctly, the owner of the castle in the Thriller Castle game scene is a D&D ghost, right? Yes, it is. Therefore, the insignificance of a boss is indeed not the same as the insignificance of an ordinary thriller player. As an E-level thriller player, I also really want this insignificant little illusion. What do you want to eat upstairs? In the restaurant, as the last dish was used up, Jong-san felt that he was exhausted. Fortunately, the suffering was finally over. Although the imagined beautiful thing of improved attributes did not happen, at least the crisis was over. As a guest horror player, the most difficult part is probably the dinner scene, right? Jong-san thought, he should have nothing to do next. However, Jong-san obviously overestimated the horror game integrity. Want to simply pass the game after eating something? What are you thinking about? If the horror castle is so easy to pass, then it will not become one of the game scenes with the highest death rate. Is everyone finished eating? The owner of the castle still looks kind. But now Jong-san will not be deceived by this appearance of the other party. Everything that is kind and polite is fake. This is obviously a devil. Now that we've eaten, how about we play a little game? The owner of the castle said and clapped his hands. Then the vampire butler walked in with a tray. Send it to everyone. The owner of the castle said to the vampire butler. Then the vampire butler distributed the cards on the tray to everyone, along with a pen. Now each of you has a special card in front of you. Next, I would like to ask you to leave your own mark on each card, using the pen in front of you. The owner of the castle said. Ryusuke Yagami picked up the red pen beside him. The ink in the pen was also red, and it also exuded a bloody smell. No doubt, it was not ink at all, but blood. Play games. I like playing games the most. Ryusuke Yagami said with a smile. He drew a smiley face pattern on his card. At the same time, other ghost NPCs also left their own marks on their cards. Jong-san was half a beat slower. He made a few random strokes on the card, and then put down the pen in his hand. At this time, the vampire butler came over and took away the cards in front of everyone again. Next, I will ask people to scatter your cards throughout this castle, and all you have to do is find your own card and protect it so that no one else can get it. The owner of the castle smiled and said the rules of the game: if your card is found by someone else, then that person can order you to do something. It can be anything. Remember, the game must abide by the rules. If anyone breaks the rules, don't blame me for punishing the violator. Trust me, you don't want to know what the punishment is. After the owner of the castle finished speaking, he clapped his hands. Okay, now please go back to your respective rooms and rest for a while, DBCD. After waiting for half an hour, everyone can start looking for your cards. Oh, right. To read Bao's Huang novels, go to Fila Novel Network. The owner of the castle suddenly thought of something and said, if anyone can find all the cards, I have a special gift for him. Believe me, this is definitely a great gift. After that, the owner of the castle waved the servants to take the guests back to the room to rest. As a distinguished guest, the owner of the castle personally saw Ryusuke Yagamai out of the restaurant, and then let a man with a face as pale as paper, the same maid, took him to his room to rest. Yagamai Ryusuke's room was on the 3rd floor of the castle. The maid who led the way walked him to the door of the room, and then opened the door with a key. Distinguished guest, this is your room key, please keep it safe. The maid turned around and handed him the key in her hand. It was a very old key. It looked like it was old, and it was full of traces of time. After weighing the key, Yagamai Ryusuke smiled. He said thank you, and then put the key into his pocket. Walked into the room. It was a suite with a large space. Entering the door was a small living room. On both sides were the bedroom and the study room for the office. A corner of the living room there was also a small bar with some strange wines on the wine cabinet. Yagamai Ryusuke walked over and picked up a bottle of wine and looked at it. There was something like a baby embryo soaked in the wine bottle. When he got closer, while watching, the embryo in the wine suddenly opened its eyes and opened its small mouth, revealing more than a dozen tentacles waving in the bottle. It looked like it wanted to run out. Ryusuke Yagamai's expression changed. He looked at it calmly for a while and then put it back. Will anyone really drink these wines? Luoyi looked at the wine on the wine cabinet with disgust on his face. It's not necessarily people who drink them. Ryusuke Yagamai said. Luoyi nodded. That's right, he can drink these ghost things. I also knew that he couldn't be a normal human being. He's a ghost. His taste is weird, but that's normal. Brother Yeshen, do you think the little game the castle owner just mentioned has any special meaning? Luoyi asked at this time. Don't know yet, but will soon. Ryusuke Yagamai said with a smile. To be honest, this little game is not difficult for him at all. If Ryusuke Yagamai wants to, he can even find all the cards instantly. But, there is no need. Play the game well. What you enjoy is the process of a game. If you cheat and win directly, that would be boring. Therefore, Ryusuke Yagamai has no intention of cheating. He intends to look for it seriously, just like other game participants same. That later. Luoyi was just about to ask something, but then. Ding. A scary player has been eliminated. Current surviving players, 7. Luoyi had a question mark on his face. Someone was eliminated so soon? Why? Being in Konoha, I can upgrade my talent entries. Author, MRMO. Chapter 459. Half an hour passed quickly. In the room. Let's go find the cards. Ryusuke Yagamai said to Luoyi. Then the two of them opened the door and walked out of the room, and came to the quiet corridor outside. In the corridor on the 3rd floor, Except for a painting hanging on the walls on both sides, the corridor shot the two pairs of medieval knight armors reflected strange light and shadow in the moonlight outside the window. Wee-wee-woo. The whistling wind came from the window. It seemed to be foreshadowing something. Luoyi grabbed Yeshen, a little scared. Ryusuke's arms followed behind him. Scared? Ryusuke Yagami turned around and looked at her with a smile. No way, I'm not afraid. Luoyi said with her head raised and her chest raised. However, the next second there was a loud slam of the door closing, and she was so frightened that she shrank directly into Yagami Ryusuke's arms. Damn it! What happened to this woman? Is it a deliberate pretense? Isn't this taking advantage of our brother? Sisters, now we have a common enemy. Blanche. Others play thriller games with all their might, while the boss plays thriller games with the intention of going on an outing in the wild, and also takes a pretty girl with him to show off his affection. Please tell me, am I a very mean person? You show me these. Just kill me. This is more uncomfortable than killing me. Is this a thriller game live broadcast room? Why do I see heart bubbles all over the screen? Get out. Get off my computer. The male and female viewers in Ryusuke Yagami's live broadcast room were all off guard at this moment. The female audience was unhappy that Luoyi, a green tea, took advantage of Ryusuke Yagami. She was obviously a horror player. How could she be frightened by this little movement? Arrive. It's an act at first glance. Bah! Damn green tea! The female audience members cursed in front of the screen one by one. But in their hearts, they wished they could take their place. It was so bad. The male audience members looked at Ryusuke Yagami, who was clearly in a thriller game. But he was still able to hug a sweet and soft girl, as if he was playing games in his villa. This caused the vast majority of male viewers who were stillborn to withstand a critical hit of 10,000 points in an instant. They were knocked down on the spot. In the corridor on the third floor, Ryusuke Yagami comforted the startled Luoyi, and then the two of them walked hand in hand to a room in front. Click, click, click. After twisting the door handle of the room, they found the door it's locked. What to do? We don't have the key either. Luoyi said. This one is simple. Ryusuke Yagami said. Then he reached over and twisted the door. With a click, the door lock opened automatically, and the door opened with a sound. What a skill! Coach. I want to learn this. What a skill for unlocking doors without props. I've failed to learn them. Brother is so handsome, this little trick is not a problem for him at all. It's just a small door to a room, and my brother is just holding it with his hand. However, brother, can you let go of the green tea girl's hand first? It looks so uncomfortable. Sisters, we have automatically blocked it and just pretend we can't see it. That's right. And maybe my brother is just playing for fun, so we have to accept his little problem with playing. You can play for fun, but after I get home, my brother will only belong to me. What about the epilepsy upstairs? My brother is mine. Draw your sword, Baichi. These women are going crazy again. Brothers, retreat. In a dimly lit room, several sofas were placed randomly, and then a few figures sat on them. No one spoke. Everyone was watching the live broadcast on the big screen in front. As for the many people flashing across the top of the screen the content of the barrage, most of them didn't care. Only one person read the content and burst out laughing. Did you see anything funny? A blonde man next to her asked her. No, I just think these people are interesting. The woman with purple hair and black gothic skirt shook her head and said. What do you think of Ryusuke Yagami's strength? The man asked her. It's hard to see through, but it's very strong. Even all of you combined can't defeat it? The woman said. The man rolled his eyes. This is not nonsense. They can see this themselves. Although each of the few people present is at least a B-level horror player. But they are also self-aware. Even if they help, even if they tie them together, they can't beat Ryosuke Yagamai, who has the Rinnegan. That's not on the same level at all. I can only say that the current horror players are still lacking in strength. If they are given another 5 or 6 years, say, maybe the top player will have been promoted to S level or even SS level by then. But by that time, Ryosuke Yagamai will probably be many times stronger than he is now, right? After all, the strong will always be strong. Unless something unexpected happens. Do you think, if we invite him, will he agree? To read exciting novels, go to Feel a Novel Network. The man asked again. The woman glanced at him and said lightly, if there is a group of E-level horror players inviting you to join their team, will you agree? What? Although the woman did not directly answer the man's question, what she said was completely enough. The man then shut up. I don't want to talk to this woman who is always hurtful. And women are happy to be quiet. Continue to look at the scene in the live broadcast room with a smile. In the room, Ryosuke Yagamai searched around and almost moved the cabinets and everything else. But no card was found. It seems there isn't one here, he said. Luoyi nodded, pretending to be listening, and said, I seem to hear someone's footsteps going upstairs. Looks like we have guests, Ryosuke Yagamai said with a smile. At this time, a tall figure appeared at the door. His head was half a head higher than the doorframe, and he even had to bend down when he walked in. This is one of the previous guests who dined in the restaurant. A weirdo with his whole body covered in bandages. Let's call him the bandage weirdo. At this time, the bandage monster who came in didn't even look at Luoyi over there. He walked directly to Yagamai Ryosuke and took out a card from his bandaged body. Oh. You found it? Yagamai. Ryosuke clapped his hands and said, okay, it seems you have any needs that I can handle. The bandage monster opened his big mouth. The outside of his mouth was covered with yellow and smelly bandages, but there was no shape of the mouth inside, only pitch black. He uttered several strange syllables from his mouth, which were incomprehensible. I understood what he was talking about. But Ryosuke Yagamai still nodded seriously, as if he was listening attentively. After the bandage weirdo finished speaking, Ryosuke Yagamai nodded and said, okay, I already know. I have met your needs, so can you return my cards to me now? The bandage monster waved his hands and looked very excited. Then the bandages suddenly spread out in all directions, and his already tall figure became nearly half the size again. He looked like a giant. Okay. Don't get excited yet, Ryosuke Yagamai said. But the bandage weirdo seemed to have difficulty communicating, and he didn't want to listen to Ryosuke Yagamai. The bandages on his body were flying, and they were wrapped in the direction of Ryosuke Yagamai. No, I don't like your bandage, and aren't those your clothes? Put your clothes on quickly. There is a lady here, Ryosuke Yagamai said as he calmly dodged the incoming bandages, and then a small black sword in his hand instantly turned into a black light and disappeared. The next second, this appeared on the forehead of the bandage monster. The small black sword was accurately inserted into the head of the bandaged monster. With a bang, black flames burned all over his body. It's Amaterasu. Idiot, that was obviously caused by the sword. What level of horror prop is that? Looks very powerful. The one that can be used by the boss must be at least B level, right? It's hard to say. Although the boss is powerful, he has only experienced his second horror game after all. The level of this horror prop may not be very high. No matter what, this bandage weirdo is dead. What did the bandage geek do wrong? He just wanted to change his clothes. Why is everyone targeting him? Upstairs, let's take a breath. You guys are so funny. There are so many talents in this live broadcast room. Why does this sword look familiar to me? Look familiar? It looks familiar. Isn't it included in the gift Dad gave you yesterday? Roll. In the dimly lit room, several people sat up straight in an instant, and the expressions on their faces became serious. I am not wrong, right? The blond foreign man pointed at the screen. That's Soul Reaper Blade. That a thriller prop. The woman with long purple hair nodded and suddenly laughed. In the Thriller Illustrated book, this soul-stealing blade has been inactive, at least before this period of time, that is to say. Another fair-skinned young man took over and said, he took this soul-stealing blade from a random prop box. Farky. The blond man cursed and said a random item box of that level can only produce items at most, right, but no one has ever done it, right? He actually drove it. Jack, my luck is much better than yours. The woman with long purple hair said teasingly, last time you opened more than a dozen high-end prop boxes, and it seems that you only opened one C-level horror prop, right? The high-end prop boxes are guaranteed to be D-level, and can even produce S-level horror props at the highest level. But in the end, you got a C-level item? Tisk tisk. This luck is due to you still believing in God. The blonde Jack looked at the woman dissatisfied and said, what does this have to do with my belief in God? Why doesn't it matter? The woman said, this shows that your faith is not pious enough. Otherwise, why didn't your God bless you? Jack. He has nothing to say. Moreover, his beliefs are indeed not very religious. At most, you just get used to it. Being in Konoha, I can upgrade my talent entries. Author, MRMO. Chapter 460. In the room, the bandage monster was burned to ashes by black flames. On the ground, a pile of ashes remained. Among the ashes, a small black sword was stuck in it. Ryosuke Yagami made a move, and the small sword flew up instantly and returned to his hand. Brother Yashin, you are so awesome. Luoyi looked admiring. So can you, this guy is weak. Ryosuke Yagami said. Luoyi only needs to use the horror props he gave, and it shouldn't be too easy to kill this bandage monster. Hearing this, Luoyi stuck out his tongue and smiled cutely. I was so scared that I forgot to use horror props. She said. Ryosuke Yagami. Is it that scary? He was speechless. However, Ryosuke Yagami couldn't feel it. But in fact, these ghosts, whose levels are higher than those of horror players, will release a special kind of mental pollution when they appear, especially when they attack. This kind of mental pollution will directly cause low-level horror players to be frightened. For example, like Luoyi did before, she was so scared that she forgot to use horror props. Or maybe he was so scared that his legs were weak and he couldn't walk. This is hierarchical suppression. It is also because the level of the ghost is higher than the level of the horror player, which makes the horror player unable to resist the mental pollution released by the other party, which causes this phenomenon. And the level of life introduced by Yagami Ryo's 120 is too high. Whether it is the material level or the spiritual level, it has reached a terrifying level. Not to mention the mental pollution released by a mere E-class ghost. He didn't feel anything even if it was the mental pollution released by SSS level ghosts. So much so that Ryosuke Yagami didn't even realize there was such a thing as mental pollution. Therefore, he sometimes wonders why these horror players are so timid. It's obviously not that scary. But he will be frightened into that kind of behavior. Even scared to death. Simply exaggerated. It would be fine if it were an ordinary person. But they are thriller players. He is a player who has experienced horror games at least once or twice. You shouldn't be so timid, right? If he was really so timid, he should have been eliminated in the first or second game, right? Picking up his card, Yagami Ryosuke looked at it again. The symbols on it were indeed drawn by him. Did this bandage weirdo find my card so quickly? Is it not hidden enough? Or just lucky? Yagami. Ryusuke muttered. He took Luoyi with him, stepped over the pile of ashes left behind by the bandage weirdo, and walked out of the room. Time passed bit by bit. Yagami Ryusuke took Luoyi with him. Yi searched the entire third floor, but could not find any cards. During this period, another horror player was eliminated. 3 horror players have been eliminated before and after. Only 6 people are still alive. And these 6 people, excluding Yagami Ryusuke and Luoyi, are only 4. I don't know how long they can survive. Come on, let's go to the second floor and have a look. Ryusuke Yagami said to Luoyi. He walked down the stairs from the third floor and arrived at the second floor of the castle. Ryusuke Yagami met another guest of the castle. That was a fat man. The ghost NPC, dressed like a butcher, looked like he could scare a child to tears. It was ugly and smelly. Ryusuke Yagami took a step back when he saw him. It really stunk. What the hell is this guy doing? How long has it been since you took a shower? Or, never washed? Yagami Ryusuke complained in his mind. At this time, the butcher monster in front of him held a card with 2 fat fingers and waved it in front of Ryusuke Yagami. Little cutie. I have your cards here. This is a ghost that can speak human language. Ryusuke Yagami thought to himself, and then looked at the card in the opponent's hand with strange eyes. That's right. This is another card of Ryusuke Yagami. And there is indeed a pattern he drew on it. But Ryusuke Yagami already has one in his hand. So, among these 2 cards, at least one is fake. Or maybe both of them are fake. As for whether both of them are true, that's obviously impossible. Because Ryusuke Yagami only drew that pattern on one card. So, this is how the game is really played. Ryusuke Yagami understood a little bit. These cards were either deliberately created by the owner of the castle to tease their guests. Or they were created by these ghost NPCs themselves, deliberately targeting him as a scary player. I just don't know the other one. The horror player who is also a guest, has he been targeted? However, the horror player named Jong-san has not been eliminated yet. It seems that he has not been targeted yet. So you're saying they're all targeting me? Ryusuke Yagami thought to himself. How should I put this? Good luck? Or unlucky? It should be considered unlucky. After all, it was not good for them to target anyone, but they chose Ryusuke Yagami. This is such a good choice. No, what happened? Why did a second identical card appear? Cheating. I report someone for cheating. There are 2 identical cards. Either the owner of the castle deliberately copied a lot of the same cards, or these ghost NPCs are making fake cards themselves. My brother worked so hard and searched for so long on the 3rd floor but couldn't find one. Why are these ugly monsters here? It must be cheating. Cheating will kill the whole family. It's over. These ghost NPCs are actually cheating. Finished? Are you sure the boss is finished? No, 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 I think this brother is talking about another horror player who randomly became a guest. To read exciting novels, go to Fila Novel Network. Do you think these ghost NPCs are stupid? If they knew the strength of the big boss, they might have to carry the train and run away overnight, right? Ha ha ha. This is the first time I see myself lining up to die. Awful. It's too awful. When will we ghosts stand up? It's still the same room. No one said anything, they just looked at the live broadcast on the screen with strange eyes. After a while, the woman with long purple hair suddenly burst into laughter. Everyone looked at her. What do you see me doing? Watch the live broadcast, said the woman. Okay, this is actually quite funny. Another woman with long black hair said. Usually thriller players can only rely on wisdom to break the situation when encountering this kind of situation, but this time the situation is obviously different. The man wearing glasses said rationally, "These guys, they are looking for the wrong target." Cut. You still have to say it. The purple-haired woman pointed her middle finger at the man. She thought she had some great ideas. But this is what happened. Forget it, I'm too lazy to ask you. Ryusuke Yagami originally wanted to ask whether he had found this card or if he had forged it himself. But after thinking about it, he realized that there was no need to ask. Then, a black light flashed. The small black sword instantly inserted into the head of the butcher monster. Boom! The black flames burned instantly. His whole body was burned to ashes in just 2 seconds. Ryusuke Yagami made a move, the black sword returned to his hand. "Brother Yagami, let me do it next time." Luo. Yi looked at the pile of ashes on the ground and said with some eagerness to try. "Okay, I'll let you come next time." Ryusuke Yagami nodded and answered. They were just a bunch of weak chickens. If he hadn't taken the initiative to send them to the door, Ryusuke Yagami wouldn't have bothered to kill them. But now they are looking for death. Then they can only do it. Next. More ghost NPCs found Yagami Ryusuke and showed his cards one after another. Yagami Ryusuke didn't know whether these ghost NPCs were agreed upon, or if his identity as a distinguished guest had other hidden attributes. In short, Luo Yi went crazy. She was a little panicked for the first time. It could be seen that Luo Yi had not actively fought against ghosts in the previous 2 horror games. But after the first experience, when Luo Yi dealt with these ghosts again, it seemed much easier. She had the A-level horror props given to her by Yagami Ryusuke. These were only E-level ghosts at best and could not withstand her casual attacks. Therefore, she would kill almost everyone who came. Even, because she violated the rules of the maid's identity, no harm to the guests of the castle, she was punished by the castle. As a result, the ghost who came to punish was killed before he could do anything. Luo Yi was wiped out smoothly. At this time, the audience in the 2 live broadcast rooms were dumbfounded. At first, when Luo Yi said that she was allowed to come, many people laughed at her for not overestimating her abilities. Especially Yeshen. The female viewers in Ryusuke's live broadcast room joked louder than each other. But when Luo Yi actually took action and easily killed a ghost in seconds, these mocking voices gradually disappeared until all the ghosts were killed by her. These people can no longer laugh. All that is left are voices full of envy and jealousy. What to do? I really want to hug the boss thigh. Cut. It's just that he relies on the scary props given by the boss to show off his evil. What's so great about it? With such a generous backer as a big boss, anyone can come. I envy this woman. It's a pity that I'm not a woman. I wonder if the boss likes men. Boss, look here, I am 168, weigh 3.703 pounds, have long legs, I have been beautiful since I was little, and my best thing is to hit people with the ball. Please look familiar to me. Damn it. I also want to be a boss. Hee hee. Think about it slowly. What level of horror prop is that? The one that can instantly kill these E-level ghosts must be a C-level horror prop. C-level? Then you underestimate the boss's structure, at least it's B-level. All wrong. That's a horror prop. No. That is actually a SSSSS level horror prop. Am I him? Is there a level like SSSSS level? If you don't understand, just ask, what is the contact information of the boss? In the room, several people also had expressions of envy and jealousy on their faces. It's another horror prop, and you're giving it away. The woman with long purple hair was envious, and the expression on her face was almost distorted with envy. She wanted it so much too. Blanche. It's really like drought and water logging and water logging. If you don't want it, give it to me. An F-level thriller player holding an A-level thriller item. I just asked, is this ridiculous? You guys think, if we bring the big guys in, will each of them give us an A-level horror prop? Jack, for the first time today, I discovered that you are not only ugly, but you also think pretty. Jack. Am I him? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Being in Konoha, I can upgrade my talent entries. Author, MRMO. Chapter 461. Corridor on the second floor of the castle. Luoyi looked at the corpses in front of her and turned back to Ryusuke Yagamai with an embarrassed expression. Brother Yeshen, I seem to have killed the owner of this castle. What should I do this time? Yakami Ryusuke smiled and walked over and rubbed the little girl's head. It's okay, just kill him. The thing is like this. Luoyi didn't just kill the ghost NPC who punished the players who violated the rules. But then he attracted the owner of the castle. As a result, Luoyi came up and used a big move to throw him away. This ancient castle, although the owner of the castle is a D-class ghost, his strength far exceeds that of other ghosts in the castle. But how can he stop A's scary props? Therefore, not surprisingly, he was also defeated by Luoyi. He also took a piece of it with him. The vampire butler who came was also killed by Luoyi. This was the scene before him. But now, the owner of the castle is dead, how can they continue their mission? Luoyi was also worried that she would kill Gu. Will the castle master destroy the original game mission and prevent them from completing the level? But Ryusuke Yagamai, who has only participated in one thriller game, has already figured out the rules of the thriller game. The rules of this game are that there are no rules. 31. As long as you are strong enough, you can ignore all the rules. Those who need to abide by the rules are always the weak. The strong always make the rules. But Ryusuke Yagamai has no interest in making any rules. But others don't even think about using the rules to restrain him. Killing the owner of the castle still has side effects. That is, all the ghosts in the castle riot. It's as if the existence of the owner of the castle is the one who suppresses them. Lock, now that the lock is gone, these ghosts are completely free. Moreover, if the owner of the castle dies, then the rules of the game in the castle will naturally cease to exist. Therefore, these ghosts started to slaughter like crazy. It's not just other thriller players who are unlucky. Even if they are both ghosts, they will devour each other. The entire castle fell into chaos the moment the owner of the castle died. Ding. The thriller player was eliminated. Ding. The thriller player was eliminated. Continuous prompts sound continuously. Soon, the few horror players who were still alive were all eliminated. Only Yagamai Ryusuke and Luoyi were left alive. But those rioting ghosts didn't dare to approach the two of them. As if knowing that the owner of the castle died at the hands of these two terrifying humans, no ghost would dare to stay on the floor where Ryusuke Yagamai and Luoyi appeared. Okay, let's sit down and rest for a while, waiting for dawn. Ryusuke Yagamai said. Hearing this, Luoyi also nodded, then walked to Ryusuke Yagamai and sat down obediently, leaning against him. And in Ryusuke Yagamai's live broadcast room. Coming. I knew I couldn't avoid this mouthful of dog food. I found that those players who play horror games with the big guys are really miserable. I used to envy them, but now I don't envy them at all. Envious? So envious. Literal meaning. I always thought that these ghosts were mindless and only knew how to kill, but now I discovered that ghosts are also afraid. Of course ghosts are scared. They are vicious, not stupid, but you have to be strong enough to crush all of them, so that they will be afraid of you, and you have to show your strength, otherwise the ghosts will not know about it. I feel like only Mr. Yagami can do it. For normal B-level or A-level horror players, the horror games they participate in are extremely difficult. Which of the ghosts in the game is not a terrifying existence with A-level or even S-level strength? It's just Boss Yagami who has only participated in the second horror game, but he is so powerful that it's like a bug. So the boss of Yagami is Bug. Anyway, Boss Yagami is invincible. In the live broadcast room, many viewers were full of praise for Ryusuke Yagami. There are still very few loyal people these days. Especially in the past few years after the advent of horror games. The hostility on the internet is obvious, it's much less than in previous years. Everyone is a lot more polite when speaking, and they won't greet your whole family at all times. The reason for this situation is also because some horror players were scolded online in the early stage, and then they got angry and follow the network cable to go to the real opponent offline. However, the methods of horror players are still very strange and unpredictable. The official agencies at that time had no experience in dealing with this incident, and could not even find out who did it. So during that period many people died. Basically, they were caused by people who turned into keyboard warriors on the internet. To read exciting novels, go to Feel a Novel Network. Therefore, after these situations were reported, those who talked all day long on the internet guys are also afraid. They are afraid that they have provoked a bad-tempered thriller player and come to be true to themselves offline. After all, the reason why they curse people on the internet is because they feel that there will be no price to pay for doing so. At most, it's just a few scoldings, but they can even get worse. Who doesn't know how to curse, right? But it's different now. If you really provoke the wrong target, you will really pay a heavy price. Although this situation has improved a lot in the past 2 years. The official organization's management of thriller players has also become more formal. But it's not completely eliminated. So everyone is relatively restrained. Ding! Congratulations to the player Ryusuke Yagami for successfully clearing this game Horror Castle, and I wish you a happy next time you play. As the sky outside the window turns white, the night passes and the day comes. This also indicates that this thrilling game is over. In fact, the game is over long ago. The next few hours are garbage time. What everyone can see is that Yagami Ryusuke and Luoyi are having fun with each other over there, and they are bored. Although Luoyi later proposed to go to the castle to walk around, which allowed them to see a lot of novel scene. But they were still fed all kinds of dog food during the process. The audience was really fed up. So when the live broadcast ended and the screen went black, they felt relieved. Finally, they no longer had to eat dog food. They are really full. Slip away. Let's go watch the live broadcasts of other horror players. The dog food is so delicious, I will eat it next time. Haha. Fortunately, I have a girlfriend. It's so cool to watch Mr. Yagami's live broadcast with my arms around her. Upstairs, I have a gift for you. Please tell me your home address. Let's go. See you in 7 days. I wonder what kind of reward the boss will get this time. Can you still get A-level horror props from random prop boxes? Do you look down on the boss? That must be a horror prop. 760. As a large number of viewers left the live broadcast room, the number of people online in the live broadcast room gradually dropped from millions of people at its peak to only a few 100,000 people left. The remaining people were either hanging up or following. Others were chatting. Therefore, in the live broadcast room with a black screen, the barrages were still dense. There were more people online than those B-level horror players when they started live broadcasts. On the other side, Yagami Ryusuke, who had quit the thriller game, was also casually counting. Take a look at the gains from this game. In addition to the basic horror points, there is a random D-level horror prop and several horror prop boxes. Ryusuke Yagami and Luoyi opened these boxes together. He found Luoyi's luck is also quite good. In the box of horror props with an upper limit of A, Luoyi will rarely open F level or E level horror props. Most of them are D level, and one item is impressively C level. This kind of luck is nothing on Yagami Ryusuke's side. But compared to other horror players, Luoyi's luck is already amazing. But Yagami Ryusuke's side still opened without any surprises. A few A-level horror props. After all, this is the upper limit of these boxes. No matter how high it is, it can't be opened. But A is just A, that's fine. Anyway, whether it is A or S level, for Ryusuke Yagami, it's just a toy. After opening the box, Ryusuke Yagami and Luoyi ran to the room upstairs to play some small games that were not convenient for outsiders to watch. It was because of inconvenience in the horror castle before. After all, it was still live broadcast. But now I have withdrawn. Naturally, there is nothing to restrain. Being in Konoha, I can upgrade my talent entries. Author, MRMO. Chapter 462. In the blink of an eye, 3 days passed. On this day, Yagami Ryusuke and Luoyi were playing games in the villa. It's a serious game. At this moment, the interface of the horror game suddenly popped up in front of the two of them. A blood-red exclamation mark flashed on it, seeming to remind them to click on it. Did you see it too? Yagami Ryusuke asked Luoyi. Luoyi nodded and said, this is also the first time for me to encounter this situation. Should we open it? Certainly. Ryusuke Yagami said, reaching out directly to click on the red exclamation mark. In an instant, the red exclamation mark turned into countless red light spots, and then formed lines of text on the virtual screen in front of him. In order to thank many horror players for their continued support, bala bala bala. Ryusuke Yagami directly skipped the previous section, which was not nutritious. Mainly focus on the specific content at the back. After a while, Yagami Ryusuke finished reading the main content. Probably Thriller Games will hold an event called King of Games in 5 days. This is also the first King of Games event and will be held every year in the future. The event will determine a Game King and give generous rewards. And, all horror players who participate in the King of Games event will receive 200 horror points for free American Samoa participation reward. Certainly. Participation is not voluntary, as is always the case with thrillers. They are all forced. It's impossible not to play. In order to cooperate with this King of Games event, all thriller players will be suspended from entering the thriller game for the next 5 days. The King of Games event will not start until 5 days later. After the event is over, the horror players who are still alive can rest for another 7 days and then continue the horror game journey. This is obviously good news for those horror players who are about to experience the next horror game, but have little chance of completing it alive. But God knows how high the death rate is in this King of Games activities. But just imagine putting hundreds of thousands of horror players into a game, and you can understand how valuable this event is. At that time, for those low-level horror players, it may be a nightmare experience. As for whether he can complete the event alive, that's hard to say. In short, they have no right to refuse. We can only work hard to survive. It seems that Thriller Game is planning to do something big. Ryusuke Yagami sighed. However, for him, this is indeed just a fun game to kill time. For other horror players, it is a game that requires all their efforts to complete alive. But for Ryusuke Yagami, it is no different from the games on the computer. If we really want to say the difference, it is probably more real, more interesting, and more fun. So, this King of Games event, Night Kami Ryusuke is determined to participate. Decide the real horror Yu-Gi-Oh! Luoyi looked at Ryusuke Yagami with bright eyes and said, Brother Yagami, I will definitely help you win the title of King of Games, Ryusuke. Yagami smiled when he heard this, stretched out his hand to rub the little girl's head, and then said the specific method of playing the game has not been announced yet. Maybe we will all be enemies by then. Then I will try my best to help brother Yagami eliminate the others. Luoyi said with a stubborn look. Obviously, in Luoyi's eyes, this first Yu-Gi-Oh! Crown can only be won by Yagami Ryusuke. Others. Just stay where you can. Right? At this moment, not only Ryusuke Yagami and Luoyi received this notice. To read exciting novels, go to Fila Novel Network. All thriller players around the world have received notices about the horror game Chapter 1. The announcement of a King of Games event. In an instant, countless people became excited. One by one, the high-level players began to gear up, looking forward to the start of the event. The low-level horror players, on the other hand, looked pale and looked like their lives were over. There was absolutely no hope. Soon, news about the first King of Games event spread among ordinary people. Everyone knew that Thriller Games would hold an event called King of Games 5 days later. Then hundreds of thousands of existing horror players will all enter the same event game scene. Hundreds of thousands of people will compete for the title of King of Games. I have to say, this is really topical. Crazy. Hundreds of thousands of people in the same game scene? If it is an elimination system, how many people will die? Now I want to know how big a game scene is that can accommodate hundreds of thousands of horror players to compete together. So exciting. I heard that those low-level horror players were almost scared to death. Fortunately, I'm not a horror player. I just need to watch the live broadcast and join in the fun. Didn't a super boss appear during this time? Do you think this first King of Games has been booked in advance? It's hard to say. There is no doubt about the strength of Boss Yagami. If we fight alone, I think there should be no thriller player who can be the opponent of Boss Yagami at this stage. But this time, there are hundreds of thousands of thriller players competing on the same stage. If those people join forces despicably to deal with Boss Yagami, I'm afraid the outcome of the matter will be difficult to predict. I think that among the hundreds of thousands of thriller players right now, there might be some other big names hidden among them. Yes, I have seen a horror player whose strength is ridiculous. He cleared every thriller game with ease. I am sure that guy's strength is more than what he shows. No matter what, we ordinary people only need to watch when the time comes. Wang Ziahao, it has little to do with us. Really been waiting. I wish it was already 5 days later. Same expectations, but one of my cousins is a horror player. He has locked himself in his room and cannot come out. What is the strength of your cousin upstairs? Class F, people come. A moment of silence for your cousin. The newcomer will definitely be miserable this time. Close. On the forums of major websites, countless people are discussing the King of Games event in 5 days. Since these ordinary people do not need to participate in the game, they have no psychological pressure at all. They are even looking forward to the start of the event in 5 days. Everyone is already guessing who will win the crown of King of Games.